Welcome to Unveiling Cyber Fraud, the podcast where we shine a light on the dark world of cybercrime. I'm Ema.
And Simona, and together we are here to uncover the truth behind cyber fraud. Today's episode, Understanding the Impact of Cyber Fraud, takes a deep dive into the personal experiences of victims, the challenges they face, and the steps they take to recover. From financial strains to emotional toll, we'll explore the multifaceted impacts of cybercrime and offer strategies for resilience.
People like Sophie, Mark, and numerous others are the real-life chapters in the cyber fraud story. They are more than just names. Now, let's lean in as these brave people share their stories and immerse us in the emotional maze created by digital fraud. Sarah, could you tell me a little bit about your story and what happened by that time?
Yeah, it happened 4 years ago. My husband, he received a call saying that I was being kidnapped while I was doing my doctor's appointment. So what happened is someone was following him and they described what he was wearing, so make it credible.
So basically it was someone that it saw you on the street and then they describe you over the phone to your husband.
Yeah, they described what I was wearing that day and what he was wearing. So they made it seem like both my husband and I was being followed. They did something on my phone because when he was trying to call me, it sent a direct to voicemail. They were saying that they're gonna kill me if they don't send some amount of money. He went to the bank and made the deposit. He deposited around 20,000 pesos. After he did the deposit, they said, okay, we're gonna send your wife to your house. So what happened, my husband went to my house. He didn't find me. Obviously, I was still on the doctor's appointment. And when he tried to contact me again, that's when I received his call. Yeah. And he was like, are you okay? Are you okay? How are you? I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. I have to turn off my phone because they asked me. And I just finished my appointment with the doctor. What? And that's when he told me everything happened.
Wow. You've been shocked, I think.
Yeah. And he was like, obviously, he felt so stupid. They followed us for some reason, and thank God they didn't do anything to me or my husband. It was just money.
Yeah, you've been so lucky.
Yeah. So what we do now, we have 2 phones. For example, now we have like secured backup on our phones as well. So in case someone's trying to hack our phones, we have the step security. So we did a lot of stuff to protect ourselves again. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just experience that maybe can help someone else. So my advice will be have backup plans, backup phone numbers, try to have like, questions to your family, or say, if you don't know anything about me in 2 hours, something, do this or do that,
Yeah,
you know
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not a nice way to live, but it's what you have to do now.
I'm really sorry to hear what happened to you, so even for your husband, and I hope that you recover in time. We're gonna keep in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Sharon.
Thanks for having me, Emma. I'm excited to be here.
When it comes to cyber fraud, what philosophical ideas can help us make sense of it all?
Well, privacy and surveillance are huge topics. They raise questions about power, control, and individual freedom. So thinkers such as Foucault and Habermas offer insights into how surveillance affects society today and our rights.
How do you get students to talk about the ethical side of new technology and how they may be misused in cybercrime?
Well, it's all about getting them involved and thinking critically. So we mix philosophy with other disciplines such as computer science and ethics. and look at real life examples and hypothetical situations, encouraging them to think deeply, helps them responsibly navigate the ethical challenges of emerging technology.
Personal stories from victims of cyber fraud highlight the devastating impact of these crimes on individuals and communities. Their experiences serve as an absolute reminder of the importance of awareness and prevention. Hi, Sophie. Thank you for accepting to share your story with us. Tell us how everything starts.
Yes, of course. So I was at work, just a regular day, nothing out of the ordinary, and I receive a phone call. I pick up the phone, they say they're from my phone provider. So of course I entertain the conversation. I want to know what's going on, why they want to call me, and essentially they just say to me that they'd like to offer me a discount. It's about 40% of my bill. They want to offer this sort of discount that they've got at the moment. So, I was on my lunch. I wasn't really, I was at work, but I was on my lunch, so I was happy to talk more about it. So they explained to me that it's sort of like this once, that I've been a loyal customer and they want to reward me as a loyal customer, and essentially they start confirming some details with myself, and I go ahead as normal. At one point they're like, we're going to send you a code, and you're going to have to tell me that code. Obviously they're speaking very professionally. I just had a lot of trust, they send me this code. I don't even hesitate. I don't even read the text message properly, and I just give them the code.
You didn't saw any red flags, nothing?
Not at that point, no. And what happened is they said, okay, now we need to confirm your address because we have to send you this, we have to send you some sort of confirmation or a SIM or something. I can't even remember what they said, but...
Not even in this moment? No red flags?
No, for something, it all happened quite quickly. But so I give them the code, like I said, and I confirm my address and everything, and at that point they're going to be like, the phone call sort of ended, the conversation sort of ended. I had to go back into work anyway. My lunch break was finishing, so I was like, okay, I trust you, I'm going to leave that with yourselves. And what happens is I go throughout the day as normal. At one point, I believe I had gotten home, I'd made myself some dinner. I was just put on a film with my partner, and essentially I look through my app. Oh no, in fact, actually, first of all, I receive an email saying that you have gone within your overdraft from my bank. And I was like, what's going on? I've been, it was an account where I had quite a lot of savings into, and, it was a significant amount of money. It wasn't millions, but it was something that was quite substantial as I was looking to buy a car. So this is something me and my partner have been trying to do for a while, because we've been, it's just part of the plan. We had already got a flat and we just needed to get another car. So I check my bank, and I kid you not, all of my savings. I had about, I had about £6,500 in there, and then 5,000 of that gone, disappeared out of thin air. So I panicked. I didn't even put two and two together. I wouldn't think that my phone provider would
But did you make any connection between the phone call that you had during that day with the disappearing of your money, or because of the panic you even couldn't think?
What happened was it was past 8 o'clock, which is when my bank phone line closes, so I couldn't even call my bank. I then thought, let me call the emergency service. There must be somewhere I could call where I could report this, or at least find out what's going on. So I called them up, and fortunately I was able to get some assistance with what I was going through, and they explained that it was really unclear where this money had gone, and tried to ask me some questions with anything that I might have spent on, any installments that I might have had that the money could have gone towards, and nothing was adding up. So then I essentially just had this penny drop moment where I was like, hang on a minute. I did have a conversation with somebody today. It was from my phone provider. I just asked myself, well, what was weird about that conversation? Did anything happen about the conversation? And then,
you just couldn't connect, right?
Yes. Exactly. And whilst I was having the conversation because this was all happening whilst I was on the phone to the emergency service from my bank. So they said, did they ask you to give them any out of the ordinary information? I said, they asked me to give them a code. But
I think that was the moment when you realized.
Absolutely, yes. So then I checked the message whilst I was on the phone to them. I checked the message and it said, do not share this code with anyone, even the staff from your phone provider. So that was just it. And then obviously my bank had to carry out some procedures. They were like, we're gonna flag this up, we're gonna send this to the fraud department, we're gonna investigate this. Just sit tight for a second. Probably one of the worst nights I've had when it came to how stressed I was, knowing that this money had just disappeared. All of my plans have gone out the window. And my hard-earned money was in the hands of I didn't even know who it was, because it turned out that I didn't even know who I was speaking to when they called me up. Even with my partner, as much as he was trying to be supportive, it created a lot of friction between us. And, we ended up arguing about, he didn't mean to, but he sort of kind of played it out like I was to blame because I let that happen to me. But that wasn't because he was trying to, be awful towards me. I think that's because he was also in shock, and that's the way that he reacted. But as you can imagine, it caused a lot of problems within my relationship as well. I really had to depend a lot on family and friends to just carry me through that situation and help remind me that things will be okay eventually. So
the bank succeed to give you the money back?
Luckily, after about, like I said, it took about 2.5 months until I started to have a little bit of promise from my bank. And then it took another 2 months after that to be able to come back to get the full amount back. And I've been able to get a financial advisor, and also I've been doing a lot more research into cybersecurity to make sure that my bank won't let this happen to me ever again.
That's good to hear. Is there anything else that you want to share with us, like any message for the other victims?
Yes, of course. Well, you are not alone. We get taken advantage of as humans by other humans, and there is a solution for everything anyway, and somehow justice will be paid. The most important thing is that we keep going. No matter what happens, we keep going.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and helping others. Hope for the best.
Victims must not only overcome the difficult work of regaining their lost finances, but also make the enormous effort to fix damaged trust. As the documentary unfolds, we delve into the scammers' methods, motivations, and the impacts of their actions.
Ema, I think primary motivation is financial gain, obviously. It is a combination between the adrenaline, power, control. These scammers are very clever, and they possess a keen understanding of human psychology. Like exploiting vulnerabilities for personal gain. They really, and like ethics and morals, they operate in a moral gray area. As a disclaimer for you guys, in the next few minutes, you'll hear an interview with our master manipulator. It's an interview with a strong emotional impact. Our scammer, what we can say, obtaining this interview was no small feat. It was requiring tenacity, perseverances, and a willingness to confront the darkness that lies within the human soul.
Trust me, it's not as simple as it seems. When you're in my line of work, trust is just another commodity. One that's easily bought and sold. For me, it's all about the game. The thrill of outsmarting my targets and the satisfaction of a successful scam. As for morals, well, I don't know, let's just say they're all a bit flexible.
Flexible, you say, but how do you justify your actions, like morally,
Well, morals are subjective, aren't they? What's right for one person might be wrong for another. Yeah, I don't see myself as a criminal. I'm just a businessman, providing a service. If people are foolish enough to fall for my scams, well, that's on them, not me. Look, it is regrettable, of course, but I mean, it's a risk they take when they enter the digital realm. I mean, my victims, they're just faceless entities to me. I don't see the tears or the cries. It's just all about numbers on a screen. Look, you have to be cold, calculating, and always one step ahead, I guess. The rewards far outweigh the risks. And as for the law, well, look, I'd say it's more of a nuisance than a threat. It's fine though. I'm careful, I'm cautious, and yeah, always a few steps ahead of the game. Let's just say I have big plans. All right?
Big plans.
The digital world is my playground, and there are plenty more scams to be had. Look, the digital world, it's a wild, untamed beast. People are always going to be vulnerable, and there will always be someone like me lurking in the shadows. But look, at least you're going to have a good story to tell.
Yeah, indeed we will. Yeah. So thank you, for your time, and
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate, me and my colleague, we really appreciate, that you had the courage somehow to talk with us and to share your perspective. So yeah.
No, look, anytime.
Yeah.
One last thing. In this world,
Yep.
trust no one.
Oh, thank you very much.
That sounds a little bit scary, to be honest, but thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. Take care.
Today we have Officer Smith, an experienced law enforcement officer who has dealt with cybercrime cases for years. Officer Smith, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Emma, for having me here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. I've been working in law enforcement for over a decade, and I've been focused on cybercrime for the past few years. My work involves kind of investigating cybercrime cases, raising awareness of cybersecurity, collaborating with other organizations and law enforcement agencies to combat cybercrime.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of work. For those who don't know, please explain what cybercrime is and how it differs this from traditional crime.
Absolutely. Cybercrime is essentially a criminal activity carried out using computers or the internet. It can take many forms, from hacking and phishing scams to identity and online fraud. It differs from traditional crime because detecting and investigating is much more complex and challenging.
Wow, that's so interesting. With all the new technology being developed, what are some of the most common types of cybercrime that you see?
So there are many types of cybercrime, but some of the most common are phishing scams, ransomware attacks, online fraud, and identity theft. Phishing in particular is a big problem because it can effectively trick people into giving out sensitive information.
It's scary. So what is law enforcement doing to combat cybercrime?
It's a diverse approach. We raise awareness through education and outreach, collaborate with technology experts and industry partners, and investigate reported incidents to catch cyber criminals. We also work closely with law enforcement agencies and action fraud, which is on behalf of the police, to share information and resources to fight cyber crime more effectively.
Since cybercrime can be a global problem, how do you deal with the jurisdictional issues during investigation then?
It can be challenging, but international cooperation mechanisms exist. We work closely with the law enforcement agencies in other countries, sharing information and resources to fight cybercrime more effectively. We also have agreements in place to facilitate cross-border investigations.
That's reassuring to hear. So what advice do you have to our listener concerned about cyber security?
Okay, the most important thing is to be cautious online. Do not click on suspicious links or provide personal information to anyone you do not trust. Use strong and, most importantly, unique passwords, and enable two-factor authentication whenever possible. Keep your devices and software up to date and back up your data regularly. And if something seems too good to be true or doesn't feel right, trust your instincts and pay attention.
Those are great tips. Before we close, Officer Smith, do you have any final thoughts on how we can collectively address cybercrime and its impact on society?
Yes. We all need to stay informed and take proactive steps to protect ourselves online. However, it is also essential that communities, businesses, and governments work together to share their knowledge and resources to strengthen our cybersecurity defenses. By working together, we can make a real difference in the fight against cybercrime.
Well said, Officer Smith. Thank you very much for your views today. To our listeners, stay safe out there and always be cyber aware. Today I've got another victim with me. His name is Mark. Can you tell me a little bit about your story?
So it all kind of started when I lost my job. I was working kind of just, a regular 9-to-5 job, and something came up and I was let go. So I was kind of desperate for work, and I put out some stories on my Instagram and, some messages to some friends trying to see if I could find some work. And then a person that I'd kind of never spoken to before messaged me on Instagram.
Like a stranger?
Yeah. So,
okay.
But their profile looked all good. Like they had like a couple thousand followers, they looked like a normal account. And he was saying that there's an opportunity for mining in crypto or something like that. I didn't fully understand. It was a cryptocurrency kind of business where you made an investment and they were promising to kind of times that by 10. So say I invested £10, they were going to give me back 100. So after a few conversations with this guy, he kind of spoke me through, and he said that if I invested 250, then I would be able to kind of get back 2,500 within the month. And
which is a lot of money, basically.
Well, amazing. And obviously I've got a kid, so I was thinking, well, this means I could probably go on holiday, take my kid, go sit in the sun.
Yeah, and so quickly way that towards some money.
Yeah, so there was all green flags, but it started to get a little bit confusing because to get that 250, obviously I wasn't a rich man. I was the last of my savings. So I did that 250, popped it over, and then I was kind of sat for a week or so waiting for a response. And he would tell me, it's up to this amount now, it's up to this amount. And he was telling me how well my money was doing. So I was comfortable and I was confident that it was all going to work out. And then he said to me, after about 2 weeks, he said, so to get your account accessed, you need to have a key. And
a key.
Right, yeah. So I thought like a physical key, like a door. So it was essentially what he said was that I had to pay £3,000 to have access to the website.
Like a virtual key, to withdraw
so
your money.
Yeah, like an account, sort of like a bank account within the kind of application he was using. And I didn't have that money, but he was telling me that my money wasn't just at like 1,000, 2,000. Now my money was getting more and more. So I'd be able to pay that off with the money I was earning.
So it wasn't more than 200, 500.
Oh, so I put in 250 at the start. He said to me that's turned into a good 2,000 now, 3,000 maybe. He said it's increasing at a good rate. If I just pay for this key, then I can access that money and we can keep on making more money. So I, after seeing the screenshots and thinking, okay, I'm going to make some money here, I took out some loans, and
So why did you get this money, to pay the key?
So I got about 700 from my mum, about 1,300 from my dad.
Wow.
And my grandma had left me some money when she passed away, so I took £1,000 from there. That was supposed to be going towards a house, and I got the 3,000, but my family were very kind of skeptical, but I was confident that it was going to work out, so I paid for that key. But I just had to direct transfer to his website, and
I think I know how. It's because I just heard from the other people that it's like a crypto wallet or something.
Yes, right. So he sent me the access code, and I could see the numbers, and it was kind of on my phone.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was on my phone. I was confident. I was looking at these numbers, thinking, it's happening. And then I got a message on my phone from a number I didn't recognize. It started with a +1 or something like that, and it said it was from the United States. And basically they were saying that I was being fined because it was an American company, and I was committing fraud by not making my account verified or something like that. So I messaged him and I was like, what's going on? Why am I getting a fine? What's going on? And he just didn't respond. So then I started to panic. And I had to take out some more loans, and I just paid this fine immediately because I was petrified. I mean, I was so far in already.
You didn't think that the American people, like the police or what was them?
Oh, it was a +1 number. They claims to be like the federal government policing sort of unit in America that deals with kind of finance and policing.
You didn't think that was something suspicious?
Oh, of course. I thought it was suspicious, but I thought that the suspicious thing was what I'd already done, which was the account. So I thought that's where I was suspicious. I thought, now the police are onto me, I need to do this properly. So now I'm suddenly kind of stuck between two bad things. And I just, once again, I took out a loan with the bank. So I went to the bank, I took out a loan and paid that off using a bank loan. So that put me in 3,000 debt to the bank. It put me in debt with my family, upwards of about 2,000. And then, so I get a message from the guy. He says, "Oh, I'm sorry, really confused. This wasn't supposed to happen. We'll be able to fix this. We'll appeal it." He was saying that we're going to appeal the fine. I'm going to get the money back. It's okay. He said, "Let's focus on getting you your money now." And at this point, he said the money was at like 65,000. So all of this worry that I had about, I'm never going to be able to pay it off, my kids aren't going to be okay, he relaxed me. He went, "Don't worry, man, £65,000 is coming." I was thinking swimming pool there. I was thinking jacuzzi over there. This panic started to disappear. And then I get another text. And this time it's from the UK police. And I recognised a British number. So, like in Luton, it's 01582. In like Stevenage or whatever, it's 01525. This was like an English number. So I was like, I recognise this. So I answered, and it was the English police, like fraud, scamming, whatever. I don't know what it was, man. But basically this guy said, "You have made a transaction for £65,000 from US to UK. So they were like, so that's your transaction that you've tried to make. We have denied this because you haven't legally gone through. This is like, they said that I was committing some sort of crime by getting that transferred in. So they sent me another fine." So at this point, I'm like £10,000 down. And
so you lost more money even
and
after when you get the money, like
it never came. So the crypto money that was invested, I was thinking, this is my last chance. So I just paid off the last fine and waited for it, and then nothing. So I didn't hear anything from the account. I tried to ring the number back that had called me, the UK number, the police, to report something back and try and follow it up, and no dialer.
Have you been like to one of the security company or
right, so like Action Frauds? So I kind of spoke to my family about it, and obviously had a bit of a breakdown and felt awful, and my dad kind of put his arm around me and said, "It's okay, you can work for me." I went and worked for him for a little bit. We never wanted to do that, I was never on the plans, but I worked for him for a little bit. Got 2 years to make some money for him, to repay my debts. I reached out to Action Fraud, and they've still got an active case going on now. And
it's still active even right now?
So the company the scammers that were every part of that, so the English police, the American police, the company itself, it was all scamming artists. So I got
I'm shocked how people can actually pretend to be an important institutions. What advice is like to give to the others, like to avoid this kind of situation?
Just don't let desperate times turn you into someone who's not thinking straight, and give yourself a bit of a moment before you make any brash investments.
Cyber fraud can have multiple faces, unfortunately, and in my practice I met plenty victims. They lost not only money but well-being as well. In the next interview, our victim will going to share with us the impact of losing them.
I used to be famous on like soccer Twitter, like football Twitter. Like a couple years ago, during lockdown, I had a Twitter account, like 10K followers, something like that, just tweeting a lot, engaging. I had some friends online, blah, blah, blah. I'm English, and after the England lost to Italy in the Euro final on penalties, the day after that, my Twitter account got hacked. I got locked out of all my Twitter accounts. When my Twitter account got hacked, they got my email, and this email was linked to everything that I own, right? And then 6 months later, I was going through some shit at the time, broke up with my first girlfriend, like a little bit before that, like was in a bad state. I always get added by fake accounts on Snapchat, but then I got added by one that was like, looked very real. I started talking to this person, this girl, nothing out of the ordinary. They said they went to my university, like they knew shit about me that they shouldn't have known, right? Basically, I sent them, we exchanged pictures, and like a couple of days later, they started asking me for money. I'm like, no, I'm not sending you money. And then that's when they start threatening me, saying they're going to send all these photos of me, they're going to ruin my life. So I sent them like a couple $100 or whatever. I realized I shouldn't have done this. And then they left me alone for a few days. And they're like, we got all your contacts. We got everything. Like, they showed me they have everything ready to go. I'd already sent them money. It was through like crypto or some shit. I can't even remember. Blocked them on everything. They sent that shit to everyone anyway. I got bullied for like harassed by my friends, just making fun of me. Random people were sending me pictures just because I didn't listen to the scammers because they're cowards. I had a friend at university who sold bicycles, like push bikes. And he was like, yo, I'm selling bikes, posted on a Snapchat story. I wanted a bicycle because I joined a new gym, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, yo, I'll buy a bike off you, bro. You know, I'll work. I've got a good job. I was trying to make money online at this point. Like, I had stuff figured out. This is a year after. And then I bought a bike, transferred him £60 on Revolut. And next day, I got mystery charges on my credit card. So at this point, I figured out my shit had been stolen. I signed up for this software. And they basically told me my data had been compromised since that day in June 2021 after the Euros. And I had all this receipts, evidence on this Avira software, antivirus. Yeah, I know it's a little bit all over the place, my story, but it took me a while to figure this stuff out, learn how this stuff works. So it's just, yeah, I've had trouble networking.
How did your friends' bullying impact you? And how scammers' action, sharing information and pictures with you, impact you?
Yeah, so basically it was a terrible experience. They sent pictures to me to so many people that I knew. It was all going around my hometown, the group chats, like everyone I knew from my old school, like they had seen pictures of me. There was no justice served. I have reason to believe I know who did it, but I don't want to snitch on him. I'm not the type of person. I'm not a revenge-driven person. I don't want to have to go through some bullshit. But at the same time, I know how this stuff works now, and I know what these people do. They use AI. They use all this bullshit, and it's just a scam. And I figured out how to protect my cybersecurity, how to keep everything safe, and I think I could provide insights to a lot of good people, and I could help people learn about this stuff. I'm not educated professionally in cybersecurity. You know, I don't have a degree by any means, but I did a lot of self-research and I protected myself when I needed to. And I set a trap kind of, and someone walked into it because it was like the second I transferred this guy for a bicycle, £60, I got credit card charges the next morning. Like, and I called my bank instantly. They were like, yup, you've been exposed to credit fraud. They gave me an address and the address was attached to this guy's name. And he walked right into a trap basically. And it was very unfortunate because I liked the guy. He was my friend. He was my first friend I ever met at the university.
So you lost money, you lost dignity. Did you have anyone around you to help you with this, to get through this? Did you seek any help?
No, I didn't have any support. I didn't use any support. I just figured it out on my own. I got to the bottom of what the problem was. And when I bought this cybersecurity software, it came with all this like data, like AI tracking, like dark web, everything. When I got to the bottom of it, I could trace it all back. And I found out my stuff had been hacked since, you know, after the Euros game. And yeah, I had no help. I just figured it out. I didn't tell anyone about it because I was ashamed of myself. I was ashamed of, you know, sending a picture like that, you know, as anyone would. And I was humiliated. And I felt like I had to prove myself to the world by just, you know, trying to make money or whatever, get in better shape. So I just took the hard work route and I tried to just get away from it. And, you know, I tried to look forward instead of backwards. That's all I did.
You lost some money with that fake girl as well, right?
Yeah, I lost like a couple $100, like a lot of money. For me, because, you know, I work 9-to-5 job. I'm unemployed right now. I'm in debt at the moment, but I've got good support around me, so people are helping me at the moment.
Is there any advice, any message that you want to share with the audience?
I would say just stay on top of everything, have two-factor authentication, have multiple email addresses, multiple devices, try to have everything synced, keep it simple, like... All my stuff was messed up and unorganized, and I've learned just keeping it simple is the easiest way.
And now the documentary delves deeper with the insights provided by our authorized staff. This conversation offers actions and guidance that individuals can take to protect themselves. Their expertise offers valuable guidance to listeners seeking to protect themselves and their loved ones.
Now, let's hear from an expert in the field. Mr. James is a distinguished solicitor with extensive experience in cybercrime law. But before we dive into our conversation, Mr. James, can you tell us who exactly can contact you or ask for help?
Anyone can contact us, and absolutely we'll take details. If we feel right from the start it isn't something we can help with, we'll tell you that. If it is, then we'll get the evidence in, have a look at it. There's a whole kind of filter process which eventually reaches to myself or one of my colleagues, the solicitors. But absolutely, it's a free service to find out if there's something we can look into. Absolutely.
What are some legal challenges and complexities that you associate with cases that are involving in cryptocurrency frauds?
As a firm, we privately prosecute all types of fraud, not just crypto fraud.
That's amazing.
But crypto fraud is obviously one of the niches. The problem with crypto is it's so anonymous. It's almost like the Wild West. You transfer your money from your wallet to somebody else's wallet, and as soon as that's happened, it's gone off who knows where. But for me, as a prosecutor, we need to have somebody to prosecute. And that is the biggest challenge. The vast amount of people that have been victims of crypto fraud. I don't know your case, but I don't know if you know who defrauded you. Without knowing who has committed the offence, we quite simply haven't got anybody to prosecute. There are ways, blockchain analysis, that we can get expert reports and analyse the blockchain and try and work out where the money's gone. But even that doesn't necessarily give us the identity of the perpetrator. It just tells us it's gone from this wallet to this wallet to this wallet. It's extremely expensive to get that evidence, and often you get it and it supports that the money's moved around, but it doesn't ultimately reveal where it's gone. So the biggest problem really is the anonymity of the whole thing. It's like the Wild West.
This is the part where the role of the expert legal counsel, it's like really important and play a big role in this, and it really needs to be like really prepared for fighting with some invisible.
As long as we can trace them, we can prosecute them. Essentially, we've got to get the evidence in. Usually it's a fraud. There's I see so many examples of this. But I was speaking to a client just a couple of days ago, and it was. He sent me the link to the website, that it was a online website, and it offered certain types of plans, and he'd invested in whatever plan, sent his crypto off, and he got returns initially. It was a Ponzi scheme, so he got some money back initially, so it looked like the investment was successful, and he put more money in, and then suddenly a large amount of money appeared in his online investment wallet, and when he tries to withdraw it, he gets hit with endless fees, and he ended up losing thousands. But the problem is, when I started digging into the website, it was clear that they had just stolen another company's identity. The photographs on the website, we did reverse image searches, and they were photographs of legitimate business people that they're just stolen from other sites. And the truth is that case is one I can't take any further, because I just cannot get to the bottom of who has committed the fraud. But that is, that's what we do. We try and dig and try and, if we can find somebody.
And what is happening in cases like this? What ends? How it has an end? So how it ends?
If we can identify them, then we prosecute. That case, it isn't one I can take further, because we cannot identify the perpetrator.
What do you advise the victim in that case? Do you collaborate with police at the same time?
Absolutely. Contact the police, contact Action Fraud. If Action Fraud get enough reports from people who've been defrauded by the same people, that they may be able to look into it, to trace it. Ultimately, the police and Action Fraud have vastly more resources than us. It's a case of evidence building. Also, if certain schemes are regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, then they can contact. They might have recourse through the FCA schemes to get the money back through the bank. A lot of crypto isn't FCA regulated. I think a lot of scammers, because it's not regulated, they take risks and they feel they can almost get away with things. They forget that the criminal law still applies. Just because there's no FCA regulation doesn't mean you can do what you want. It's still fraud. still a criminal offence of fraud.
Did you have the chance in all your experience to ever meet a scammer or talk with a scammer or having the court a scammer and find out why they do this?
Good question. I haven't, truthfully. I mean, we've prosecuted them and, seen them on the other side of court, but we don't kind of have that personal conversation with them because we're trying to send them to prison.
Yeah.
Is the reality.
I was wondering, if they have something to defend themselves in when they are in the court, just, using.
Yeah, well, if it's forgive my phrase, but if it's a nailed on fraud, if the evidence is there and there isn't a defence, they're then instructing clever solicitors,
That's all right.
who were often defending the case by saying that the prosecution itself is an abusive process, so that we shouldn't be bringing the private prosecution. So they're trying to kind of pick technicalities into what we're doing to deflect, because there isn't a defence to the fraud. So they try and get the prosecution thrown out as an abusive process. And it's this whole legal game. Obviously, I make sure, they raise this argument and we will say, of course it's not an abusive process. It's a fraud. You've stolen this money from our client.
Yes.
Here's the evidence, but this is the games that are played.
I think they are very well prepared, right? To know how to defend, what to say.
They are. I mean, we did have a case last year. He entered a not guilty plea and it was heading to trial. It was listed for trial. And at the very last minute, because of the overwhelming evidence, he pleaded guilty, but only to 4 charges. But that was a case, that was online, that was crypto. I think it was about 150 people had been victims, made the national press.
Okay.
And I can send you through a link to that if it helps. So we have had success stories. Often when you get to the eve of trial, they might very well look at the evidence again and change the plea. If a client contacted me today with the evidence, with an identified perpetrator, it could easily be 2 years before we get to trial. It simply takes that long.
It takes a while.
The court system takes a while. And even then, we're prosecuting. So we're looking to see them punished for what they've done.
Yes.
There's no guarantee that we will ever get the money back. I have to say to clients, look, I will try and see justice done, to try and see the perpetrator brought to justice, but I cannot promise you we will get your money back. In fact, there's a good chance we might not. This case that we secured the conviction on, if we can get a conviction, if we can secure a conviction for fraud, we can then push it to what's called a Proceeds of Crime Act hearing, where the court will look into the defendant's finances, try and trace what's happened to the money. Yes. So that case, they've looked at his finances and the court have found that about £5 million has passed through his crypto wallet. So that's, rough figures from hundreds of different victims, but about £5 million. And the court have said they want an explanation as to where that money is. What has happened to that money? And it's either the court is saying to the defendant, to the perpetrator, either tell us where the money is or serve 10 years in prison. Now, the reality is we think it's probably organised crime. I don't know for sure. We think there's probably somebody above him. He hasn't got the money anymore. It's gone somewhere. He's probably never going to say what's happened to the money. Odds are he's probably going to take the 10 years in prison. But that's...
So they prefer, most of them prefer to spend the time in the prison instead of saying...
It depends, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If it's organised crime and there's somebody above them...
Yes.
Then they probably don't want to risk it. It's the reality. But we have got these tools that we can use. We've got to run the prosecution, and if we can get a conviction, then Proceeds of Crime Act. So there are ways and means that we can do these things. It takes a long time, and ultimately we can see the defendants either sent to prison if they don't explain where the money's gone. But it's a long-winded process. It is not quick, and there is no guarantee. Although I fight, and my colleagues, we all fight as much as we can to help people. There's no guarantee.
Let's give to people something positive. Any successful cases, just few. If you had any successful cases, let them feel them. They can be helped.
I'll share the link. Yeah, well, so it was this case. I mean, that was our biggest success story to date. But we've got plenty others in the system at present, and lots of different types of crypto fraud as well. We've got people who set up their own crypto that have been defrauded by their own colleagues, or we've got people who online sites or, regular frauds, but where they've paid in crypto. The kind of whole gambit, really. If something were to happen, then first off, keep absolutely all of the evidence, communications, records. That is so vital in fraud is the evidence. We have to be guided by the evidence, so keep everything. Do contact action fraud, contact the police, contact action fraud. If somebody contacts us, we will be saying, have you spoken to the police? We can't just prosecute unless the police and an action fraud have been given a chance first. But then contact us. Often fraud there's so much fraud, it goes unprosecuted by the police. They don't have the resources. We are more selective. We can't help everybody, but if you come through to us, we will take details and try and help. We'll review it. If there's something to it, absolutely, we'll take the case on and fight it for you. But yeah, contact us directly. And we're expanding our team. So there's 2 senior solicitors, but we've got more solicitors joining later this week, actually. So the team is growing, and we've got resources, and we know that there's more and more crypto fraud happening, and fraud in general. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you make the time to talk with me today. I wish you all the best, and thank you once again.
No problem. Hope it helped. Thank you.
So, Sophie, now, after you had my interview with one of the solicitor companies specialized in cyber fraud, how that make you feel knowing that there is so much help and hope for victims like you?
It restores my hope of humanity, genuinely. You think of the worst when this happens. You think nothing's going to get better. It helped knowing that I wasn't the only one that this had happened to. I'm going to continue helping people out there as much as I've been helped. So thank you.
As the conversation with authorized staff comes to a close, the documentary emphasized the importance of taking proactive steps to combat cyber fraud. We hope you found our discussion empowering. Next up, we have an exclusive interview with Mr. Andrew, the local MP, offering invaluable insights on combating cyber fraud. Let's dive into the conversation.
The call is timely because only last month, on the 16th of February, the Home Office launched a new national campaign against fraud, and the majority of fraud, I think, is online, or cyber fraud, as you call it. So that campaign was called Stop Think Fraud. Probably find details of it on gov.uk, or if you just type Stop Think Fraud gov.uk into Google, I think it'll come up. You're right to focus on this, as I understand that 40% of all offences in England and Wales are fraud. So in terms of what the government is doing, we are replacing action fraud, who I have to say I never found that helpful or that good. So there's quite a lot of money going into this from the government, actually. Between 2022 and 2025, so that 3-year period we're in at the moment, government is spending £2.6 billion, so £2,600 million. That's quite a lot of noughts in a time when public finances are under pressure on the national cyber strategy. And so some of that money is going to the Home Office, some of it goes to police forces, some is going to the National Crime Agency, the National Cyber Security Centre, which I have had the privilege of meeting, and the City of London Police.
These are good news to hear, because it looks like the government is investing in this, helping the victims, right?
Yes, absolutely. And specifically, you asked about the victims. On educating the public, there's this big national awareness campaign that will include advertisements across a range of formats, including television, radio, and social media. But the government is creating a national fraud squad. They've already got 400 investigators in post, Simona. what victims want is someone to, try and get their mony back. And then obviously best of all is prevention, isn't it?
But the thing is, Mr. Andrew, is not only about the money. The victims, they are as well facing mental problems and confidence, and it's the money, but it's psychological as well.
I think that's a very good point, and often deep embarrassment. If you've gone and lost your sort of family savings, you're deeply embarrassed, to tell your husband, to tell your wife, to tell your partner, to tell your children. To think it probably would lead to people taking their own lives in some cases. I think a lot of this, I think it is the job of parents, isn't it? You say they're very young. So actually part of being a good parent, in today's world, in 2024, I think is, as soon as your children get a bank account, have any sort of income and get a phone, there needs to be a lot, I would say, of advice and warning about not being scammed. Now, I'm a member of my neighbourhood watch group. I live just outside Dunstable in a village called Studham. And anyway, I'm on the village neighbourhood watch group. And I would say that probably 80% plus of the information I see on that group is warning against various scams.
Yes,
actually.
Definitely.
So that information, so one good tip would be to try and join, and I think pretty much everywhere has a neighbourhood watch group. If it doesn't, you could probably go to the police and offer to set one up, actually. And you would then get feed of information from the police on, scams they discovered in other parts of Bedfordshire, where Bedfordshire Police Force area, aren't we? So they would then disseminate that information for all the neighbourhood watch groups you would get if you're a member of that group. I say you could set yourself up. Yeah.
Have you ever faced this situation? I mean, have you ever, any victim ever come at their office and ask for help or guidance?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I have had people who've been scammed. They probably in the main email me. One of my children's friends, I remember her father saying, Building Society account got scammed, and she was watching the money being taken out by a thief.
Oh my God.
I think they just managed to stop it. I don't know if they got it back, but that was one story I heard. Goodness, obviously the security wasn't, good enough. I wonder how much we do in schools. So schools have assemblies, and I would have thought, we really have a duty, and schools can help in this and should, to warn young people of the dangers, just sort of good cyber hygiene, as it were, just sort of do's and don'ts, the things not to fall for. As I say, prevention is always better than cure, isn't it? And if you can stop someone falling for a cyber fraud scam in the first place, that would be better. It's interesting. I'm in a school tomorrow morning, so I will.
Oh, that's good. So you can talk about it.
I could ask them what they do about it. So I think education, prevention,
yes,
awareness are all important. Now, a couple of other things the government is doing. So Ofcom, the regulator for the communications industry, are taking action against criminals impersonating or spoofing, as I gather it's called, phone numbers of trusted legitimate organisations like banks, delivery companies, or even the NHS. Isn't that pretty awful? So someone could take over your doctor or your bank telephone number. So you think it is, Barclays or NatWest or Santander ringing you, or the NHS.
Yes.
So the government is supporting Ofcom to take action there. We're taking action to ban what are called SIM farms, SIM farms. They're technical devices that allow criminals to send scam texts to thousands of people at the same time. And we're taking action to make them illegal, passing law to say that's criminal activity. And also we're consulting on a ban on cold calling for all financial products. So it will be illegal to say, oh, hello there, Mr. Smith. I'm ringing from, Prudential. I'd like you to move all your savings over to us. We're going to say that's illegal. So, and if we can publicise that and people know, then people will just put the phone down and say, well, you're not allowed to do that, so you must be a fraud. And a little bit of success. I mean, I
would like to hear that too.
Yeah, well, apparently fraud has fallen 13% compared to 2022. Now, I think it's probably gone up to a high peak. and it's just come down a little bit.
Yeah,
it is moving it in the right direction.
Finally, as a member of parliament, what message would you like to convey to your people?
There needs to be really good education in schools, warnings, and I think that I have a role as well to advise people to be cautious, to be careful. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. Yeah, and if anyone is a victim and doesn't feel they're having proper follow-up or proper investigation, they're very, very welcome to contact me, come and see me at one of my weekly surgeries. And of course, I would take that up with the police and this National Fraud Squad as well, to get them to look into it.
Thank you so much, Miss Andrew. All my best.
You're welcome. You're very, very welcome, Savannah.
Bye-bye.
The message is clear.
United, we can unveil the truth behind cyber fraud and take action to protect ourselves and our communities.
This podcast was made possibly with the generous support of our tutor Terry, Rachel, who guide us, and of course me and my partner Simona, who dedicate to raising awareness about cyber fraud and providing resources to combat it.
Thank you for listening our episode of Unveiling Cyber Fraud. And remember, knowledge is your best defense against cybercrime. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and take proactive steps to safeguard your digital presence.